What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank, and I wanted to make this video because I think it's important for African Americans who are thinking about going to Nigeria to vacation, to do business, to possibly move to do anything like that. I think it's important for African Americans to understand the situations or to understand what's going on the ground and going on on the ground in various countries before you go, so you can be prepared and you don't offend anybody, or so that you can understand why things are the way they are, and you can understand why people are acting a certain way, or so that you can move correctly, as to not offend anybody, or whatnot. So a few things you need to understand about Nigeria before you go in most African countries. Okay, we also have to get away from saying, "Hey, let's stop speaking about Africa as a." We really need to stop speaking about Africa as a country, because we still, even though we know as a continent, African Americans still kind of speak about Africa as it's just one giant country. Okay, it's not. It has. There's a lot of countries, a lot of different tribes, a lot of different you know, there's a lot of different situations there. Okay, particularly let's talk about Nigeria. You want to travel to Nigeria before you go. There are plenty of Nigerians here. You can talk to them. You can do your own research. First, you need to understand the tribal situation over there. The tribal situation. You have the Igbos. In Nigeria, you have the Igbos. You have the Hausa Fulanis, and then you have the Yoruba, right? You got to understand the geography, and you got to understand where they are in the country, and you understand the history of these three groups. Now, there are other tribes in Nigeria, but these are the most prominent ones. But these three are the ones that you really need to pay attention to and understand before you go. And this also determines who you're going with and for what, for what reason, whatever. Like, for instance, the Igbos, they have a place that they consider their own homeland. They call it Belfron. There was a civil war. A lot of people died. Okay. They were fighting against the Yorubas. The Yorubas and Fulanis, and the Fulanis are in the north. They're Muslim. In the Delta, in the high states where we hear the Boko Haram and all that. You got to understand the dynamics of that. You got to understand Yoruba, what part of the country they're from, understand the connection between the Yorubas and Benin and Lagos and that whole thing. Because Nigeria is not, even though Nigeria is one country now, the states themselves and the people that live in those states are the tribes that, and some of those states used to be their own countries or their own territories. They were individual countries themselves, or they were part of other countries or geographical organizations or whatnot. So when Europe chopped up the place and created these states, it created a lot of conflict between, as far as territory, with different tribes. And one thing you need to understand about tribe, if you look up the definition of tribe just means a group of people. Okay, it just means a group of people that are over there. Like, for instance, if you're in DC, Washingtonians, we would be a tribe, right? People from Prince George's County, that group, tribe. Montgomery County, tribe. Waldorf, tribe. New York, they could be they would be a federation. There'd be many tribes in New York. You got Bronx, Brooklyn. Those people, they're a tribe. I'm from Bronx. I'm from Brooklyn. The Bronx, BX, all that. Those are tribes. All right, just think of that. That's what a tribe basically is: a group of people who live together and congregate, and tend to have the same cultural, or they tend to share the same cultural norms and practices. It's just that in Africa and Nigeria, in Africa as a whole, these tribes are a lot older. They're a lot more established than all the other tribes, and what we're talking about, these tribes go back hundreds of years. Some of them go back thousands of years. Some tribes are mixed between other tribes that they gathered together over time, or or unified. Some tribes are offshoots of other tribes. You got to understand, just because you see Just because you see a religious or spiritual similarities between the tribe does not mean that it hasn't changed before. Like you can be a Yoruba and a Christian, you can be a Yoruba and a Muslim, you can be a Yoruba and just straight traditional. You understand? So the religion itself is not exactly tied to the tribe, but in some cases the tribe tend to be a certain religion. Like most Fulanis are Muslim. All right, come from the north. They come from a great empire itself. Some of the states are still the same states that were there, that were connected to other countries, and they were there in biblical times. If you just like research like Kano State, you can understand the politics, why the people in the north are the way they are, and how they got that way, and all that stuff. And you'll understand why, like the Yoruba, they're more of a farming community. They farm land. You'll understand why some of them have multiple wives, and why multiple wives is something that they practice, and for what reason, why it benefits agriculture itself. You'll understand the Igbos, how they were traders. I mean, traders as in trading in goods and services. They're business people. They're the ones you tend to see. Most of them have shops. The ones you mostly run into are usually Igbos. They're very smart, business savvy individuals. And that's what they do. Fulanis, they have a nomadic way of life. They live simpler. We would compare them to like the Amish. Sort of how they want to live their traditional way of living, even though they have the option. Some of them do live modern like other people. Most of the leadership in Nigeria are Fulani, the higher class, but their people are not, they're not so, well, they have a large population. We're not going to get into the politics, but if you want to know the politics of it, you should do research. That way, when you go, you don't disrespect anybody, or you know how to move in the areas that you are visiting. You understand that they all don't speak the same language. There's different languages there. If you're going to visit an area, you should, understand that there are languages there, that there are languages there that you should probably learn a couple greetings. Maybe say hello, good morning, good night. Try to do that. Nigerians, just like most African places, they have a deep, deep respect for their elders. Deep respect. And respect is shown on every level, on every class group, on every age group. And it's very important. It's a non-starter. Just as serious as we know, like the Japanese are with their traditions and how they move, how they organized. It's the same way in Africa. Like the age, you must respect your elders from kid all the way up to senior. There are certain ways you greet. There's certain ways you greet senior people, or people who are of respect or higher esteem. You need to learn how to greet them and do it properly. Just like in Japan, they bow. In Nigeria and other places in Africa, they may prostrate. You may have to prostrate completely. You may have to get all the way on the ground like you're doing a push-up and come back all the way back up, or wait till that person tell you to get back up. In some instances, depending on where you are, and if it's if you're in more of a traditional setting, or if you're in the city, or you may have to do it halfway or whatnot. But you need to learn all of those things so that you go there and you don't disrespect, or you don't misrepresent yourself as an African American visiting these places. Learn their greetings and be respectful. When you're in their country, you do their customs. You don't bring your Western African American, or for other countries, don't bring whatever you do in your country. Don't bring that there. What you do is you come as a humble ambassador representing your people, and you try your best to learn as much about their customs and culture as you can, because that reflects good upon us when we travel to these places, so as to mitigate the stereotypes that's already placed upon us. So every time you go to these African countries, you need to know you're representing your tribe, your African American tribe. You're representing your tribe from the East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, wherever you're from. You're representing that person, those group of people, and you need to understand that you're an ambassador. That's what you are. So and if you do that, and they already know who you are. Okay, A lot of them know, the elders, they know who you are, they know how you got there. But a lot of people there don't. So when you go there, understand that a lot of them don't understand, anything about us. But from what they see on TV, they don't understand. They don't know the history behind, you know, African Americans in America, or any other island or country on the Western Hemisphere, or any other place outside of Africa. A lot of them don't. They haven't been educated on that, because they're also coming out of colonization, which of course they weren't taught that too. So you got to take that into consideration when you go. When you're a light-skinned person like myself, you have to remember, you may have certain advantages when you get there. You will notice that because of, just like a lot of other countries that have been colonized by Europeans, there's a lot of self-hate there. A lot of people bleach. Understand, you'll see people who have bleached. You notice it. It's not a natural color. It's, something a lot of countries over there are trying to mitigate, trying to change. But some countries, they haven't done it yet. Haven't done more to stop it. So a lot of people do bleach. You will notice that people will envy your light skin. Some people will even call you white. Okay, if a Nigerian calls you white, do not get offended. He is not calling you white as in a European. They're calling you white as in like a foreigner. They may say foreign like white as a foreigner. So if somebody does that, just politely use that as a teaching moment and explain to them that you are not white. And then that gives you an opportunity to teach them how it is that you got your light skin, whether it's natural from Africa, because there are natural light skinned people in Africa, or whether it's because of slavery and the rape of your ancestors. Let them know that, teach them, and then they will have a aha moment, and maybe they'll teach somebody else, and let's spread the cultural information between us both. Okay. Also, when you go there, when you have a chance to sit with an elder, listen to them as if they're your grandparents. Treat them as they are your grandparents, because they have a lot of wisdom. We who consider ourselves modern, we may believe that we're very, very smart, but we're not. And we may believe that we know more than some of the village people, whatnot, or think that we can only provide them with information and knowledge. But listen to them, because they have old knowledge, they have old information, old knowledge, old ways, old tricks, and a lot of old things that we can use that we haven't, as black people, have not been using. They have a lot to teach us. And when you go there and you have it doesn't matter who it is. If it's an old person and they want to sit there and talk to you, sit there and listen. Okay. So basically, just do your research. When you go to a country, you want to go there and feel like you've been there before. That, I remember that from my research, or I remember that. Don't go in there completely blind. Go in there, do your research, and keep yourself open and understand the politics, of the situation. Because you don't want to be that African American who walk in there and get into a tribal tiff, get into a class tiff or anything. You don't want to be a part of that, because we're about unification, and tribalism is a problem over there. Just like over here, we have our own version of tribalism that we created. That's the same as their tribalism. We have these gangs. We have gangs who literally fight and kill each other for territory that they do not own. They fight and kill each other for blocks that they don't own. They perpetuate this lifestyle like they have to live it. And these gangs were created to protect the community from outside threats that they perceive, to be a threat to their community. That was the purpose of these gangs. But then they were twisted into something else, thanks to the drug epidemic, that our government, placed upon our communities or whatnot, But we have our own version. People fighting over colors, red and blue. It's stupid. We didn't even invent these colors, and we're fighting over them. So we have the same problem. We're very familiar with the problem. Just treat it like you would go to Los Angeles, to visit a cousin or something, and there's Bloods and Crips. You don't get involved in that. You understand both sides. Maybe try to make peace if possible, but you don't take sides. Just understand the dynamics and understand why it happened, why they're divided. The bigger picture, and help them to unite while we're uniting with them. Because that's what we did over here. America's full of a bunch of Yorubas and Ibus and Fulanis who both were against each other at some point, and because they had a commonality of a common enemy, a common oppressor here in America, they had no choice but to learn, to speak the same language, create their own new culture, and just to fight against that oppression. That is the African American. That's who we are. So we are an example of what can happen when tribes stop fighting over land and petty things and find a way to work with each other. So that's just my few thoughts that I want to pass along to you, you African Americans. Before you go over there, your job should be to impress the Africans and let them know the African Americans, we are African, we know we're African, and we respect the culture, and we don't want to do any disrespect. We don't want to create any rifts. We don't want to add to any rifts that we already have. It's all about putting that puzzle together so we can see the greater picture. You know what I'm saying? So, I always spend my time learning about these cultures, because it's my culture, so I'm learning my history. That's my thing. I went to college for history. That's my love, my passion, because history is important, because history repeats itself. Okay, history happens over and over again, and we are a part of history, whether you want to be or not. So just keep learning. Some learn something and then teach something. You learn something and teach something, and let's just keep this thing going. All right, this has been Afro Think Tank. I'm out. Peace.